You want to be able to share from your own experience
Right.
and not project what you anticipate the listener's experience is. So, in other words, if you're the speaker, share what's going on from your own
Right.
vantage point, and this is how I feel about what's taking place.
And one thing that we tell couples that's so important is, when you're sharing, think of you're disrobing yourself emotionally. You're exposing some heart there for the other person to look into it and see what it feels like to be you on the inside.
Oh, is that what it feels like to have been
Right.
you in that situation?
And so when we say share your own experience, we're also talking about, I'm not trying to tell the listener what the listener thought and felt.
No.
I'm not trying to say, you know what, you did that and this is what you meant and this is what you were thinking. What am I, a mind reader?
And so many times that's what happens for the listener is they become defensive because they feel like the speaker
Yeah.
is telling them this is what you meant and this is what you intended.
Right. Bad boy or bad girl.
Yeah, when the speaker is actually saying this is how I felt about your behavior or your words.
Right. And so the difference between, pointing at the other person and finding fault with the other person is owning and taking responsibility for the way I felt because of something that happened. I'm not saying yay or nay about what the listener did or didn't do, because that's not my business. But I am saying, you know what, when such and such happens, I just have a little bit of problem with that. I feel this way, in that moment. And I need you to know that, because we should care.
Yeah, that's making each other aware of what our each experience is in our communication. And that's really good to be open like that.
I think when we blame or shame, we set the other person up to be tempted severely to be defensive.
And that's not our goal. Our goal is not to give the listener down the road over
Right.
what they did. We're just making them aware of our own experience.
But I think a lot of couples do that. They think that the purpose of me sharing my issue with you is so you can know what you did to me. And one thing
How bad?
one thing we found with couples is that is not necessary.
No.
You can get the change you want without beating your spouse over it. And so simply sharing that, I just felt invisible when I said something and you didn't even respond.
And that's making each other aware. That's something coaching. That's something
Yeah.
that we've talked about.
Right.
Man, it is so important to have that mentality
Yeah.
of being a coach to your spouse of what your own
Yeah.
expectations and experience are.
We actually have a video on coaching that
Yeah,
would be great
very
to look
valuable.
into.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if I can just say, you know what, I just said something. Would you mind responding to
Yeah,
it?
I need a connection. I shared
Yeah.
something. I don't feel like you really connected with that.
Isn't that nicer than, you know what, you never listen to me?
Oh, goodness.
I say things and you just ignore me. Really?
That's more of a jab.
It is a jab.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who wants to be the listener? We basically, we want to get upset with the listener for not hearing us while we verbally berate them as we talk. So can you see that
Verbal
it's
jousting.
yeah, verbal jousting. Can you see that we're removing the negativity from the presentation, boiling it down to the headline, basically, and just saying, hey, would you do this for me? And present it in the form of a positive request.
I'm making you aware.
Right.
So-
And I'm asking you to do this thing for me instead of shaming you because I didn't like something you did
You
or
didn't
said.
perform well.
Right.
Yeah.